There we go. Let's see if everything's working today, just for change. Seems like it's a little slow to go live these days for some reason. I don't know why. Yeah, looks like everything's working. Great. Well, happy Friday. Welcome back to another live stream. Got to catch up on some things, talk about the contest, and see how everybody's doing. See what's going out in the VC. Do I want to let my dog in the door or not? I don't know. Let me see. I should probably come in whether I like it or not. So today's Friday, so that means TGIF, of course. Hope you had a great week. It's been a little bit of a up and down week here. I mean, just in terms of work and life balance. I got a daughter that's expecting, and any day now, kind of thing. I guess I would say, for lack of a better way of putting it. So, kind of monitoring that. Obviously, she lives in San Antonio, and I'm in Dallas. So. We'll see how that goes. So we had an announcement this afternoon out of Analog Productions, Chad Kassem's company. We'll talk about that and what it means and where things are headed. I've contacted him. I think I'm going to have a little chat with him here this weekend and put that next week just to catch up with him and talk a bit about his announcements and how things are going in general. So that's always good. And I did announce I'm going to be, if you haven't heard, if you have a YouTube channel, you might know. So YouTube is going to be issuing these things called handles. And basically, it's a name with an @ sign at the front. So you can quickly get to identify and have a handle for your channel. So obviously, this comes right in the heels of me doing a name change. So I've changed the end date on the contest to be this Saturday night at midnight or Sunday morning at midnight, whichever way you want to look at it. It's technically, I guess it's midnight Sunday. So you've got today and tomorrow, and I do have some submissions up there. I appreciate those. Had a lot of great ideas. I think I'm narrowing it down based on what I'm seeing, but of course, I'm open to a late entry one that just kind of goes, yeah, that's it. So I'm kind of in the process of working through those right now. And again, I appreciate everybody's entries of some real interesting name change bands that came out in the contest, which were interesting. A few I didn't even know, there's a lot of them I don't know for that matter, but a few of the more uncommon ones, and I appreciated those, and a couple that I knew, but I didn't, connect the dots and go, oh yeah, that was a name change. Of course it was, but I didn't have the recollection on it. So it's fun, something just a little bit different. A couple people did a little research, and that's kind of what makes the wheels go round, I think, in the vinyl community. Feel free to step in there and chat. Haven't seen anybody say hey yet. Just want to make sure it's working. I'm going to put mine in. I guess I'll do my Texas. Hi, y'all. Make sure chat's working there. Oh, hey, you, Dr. Lund. How are you? Loved your video today. I mean, your interview, being interviewed. It was really, really touching. It was really nice. Dr. Lund and I have known each other since high school. So long trip. Appreciate you coming in. Hello from Norway. Hi. I was just emailing somebody in Norway today on my work project. It looks like I'm going to be in Europe in early December. I had just got an email about 5 o'clock. Said, hey, you want to come for this meeting in person? And I'm thinking, yeah, I do. So we old. Yeah, we are. We're old, but we're wise. And we're going to use all the rest of our days to help people. I know you do that and you like it. And so yeah, I'm looking forward to coming back to Europe. I was there in June. I used to go twice a year pretty regularly. Obviously, the COVID situation put a little bit of a kibosh on that. Although it was interesting, I worked for a Swedish company, and so if you didn't know, I mean, Sweden kind of at first didn't quite go all in, all whole hog, stopping everything, and they used a lot of personal responsibility. And I don't know where their stats ended up, but for a long time they were, doing pretty well. I mean, they had some of the typical elderly people and those who had pre-existing conditions, kind of thing go on, of course. But it was interesting because we were dealing with it differently in different regions of the world because I was actually I was reporting and managing COVID decisions in the United States for my company, and so really got a lot closer to it than I really wanted to. Not the disease itself, but information and those kind of things. But better times are here, and that's it's great to always be back out and doing what we need to do. It's funny, the vinyl community actually really grew a lot in the pandemic because people were at home. A lot of people had excess money from what they were given. A lot of money, people weren't driving, so they weren't buying gas. They weren't getting oil changes. They weren't replacing tires. There were a lot of macroeconomic kind of things going on that were, really involved with that. And just talking to my wife earlier today, people left jobs after after they sat for a year and a half at home or whatever. They kind of reflected on their life. And I know I retired. I retired earlier than I planned on retiring, and I probably wouldn't be sitting here doing this right now if I hadn't. So yeah, a lot of dynamics out of that, much more than just on the surface. Of course, the economics we're going through now, the vinyl community's got a lot of economics. So you're a Swede living in Norway. So happy I lived in Norway during the pandemic. The Swedish strategy was a disaster. Okay, yeah, like I said, I don't know what the net outcome of all that was. When you get down to it, but definitely it was one of the different approaches. So, I think everybody didn't quite know how to handle what they didn't know, right? Right. So yeah, so now we're in a situation with the pandemic outcome and the outflow in the vinyl community where, it's affected pricing because of a lot of turn of records. A lot of people sold records, but now we're starting to see original records, old original OGs, they call them, the value of those are starting to rise. And part of the reason for that is I think part of this exposure with MoFi when it came out, we're paying all this high dollar and these have some digital steps in them. And gee, don't those OGs really sound great for the money? I think people have reflected on that. There have been some other people in the vinyl community have created videos. I've got a few to show myself. A record that I'm going to be doing a shootout on or recording the shootout. I've started it already. The shootout's actually completed on Donald Fagen's The Nightfly. And The Nightfly is interesting because it was recorded digitally in the first place. So there is no true, analog tape of it or anything. It's digital, but it was done very well. It was done on a U-matic system, not the Sony digital stuff, but a U-matic recording, which is different. It was one of the higher grade capabilities at the time, and a lot of places were just buying the Sony because it was relatively inexpensive compared to the U-matic because it still used tape to record, but it was a digital signal it was recording. So it's a great album from a recording standpoint. Let me put it that way. It sounds great, whether you like the music or not, whether you like Steely Dan kind of / Donald Fagen, that's taste, and I like it, but that doesn't mean everybody does, and that's okay. But I think from a sonic standpoint, it's hard to argue that a lot of those Steely Dans really sound good, and so does the Nightfly. So now it's a matter of comparing original US, original Europe, and the MoFi of it, not the one step, but the regular MoFi that it came out. So yeah, so I'll be releasing a video on that here in the next few days, and so that'll be something that you can see what you think. You know, then the difference really is a matter then of, you know, is it worth the price difference? It's not just, you know, the sound. Is the sound worth the 40, 50, 60, 100, whatever the difference is it worth it? And I honestly think that it depends. Some recordings it is. The other thing is, do you like the album well enough to spend that much money? I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, I'm going to talk about an album coming out now on Analog Productions. I'm a little bit torn whether I want to buy the upgraded version or not, only because I've got to listen to it again to see is it really one I want to invest in. So if you haven't yet, press the like button. I appreciate that. That kind of puts it up on the recommended list a little more. If you can, I'd appreciate that. So we've had some very good entries in the contest. I have a contest playlist, so you can go there and see the entries that have been videotaped, and look at what people put in for the three albums of groups or individuals that had renamed themselves. So renaming is a big thing, I guess. So as I was saying, these handles are coming out where you're going to get a handle name, and they're going to default it. You'll get, if you're a YouTuber or creator, you're going to get an email from YouTube. I got mine yesterday. It says, "Hey, you can select your channel handle now, and we've selected it for you." And I think mine's like at the Sound of Safe Sound Texas, right? And I'm like, well, I probably don't want that one because I know I'm not going to have that, and that's why I'm moving the contest up, because I wanted to get the real name in there and be done with it instead of having to go back. You can change it, but I just figured it's all kind of happening together. So, and frankly, I've seen a few. I've seen a few names that I think I definitely could live with. So, what's behind the curtain? Well, we're not doing Monty Hall. Let's see, it's a window there, or a frame. There's a window here. It's actually, let's see what's behind the window. There's another curtain. Oh my gosh. Places like Fort Knox. And you get a reflection because it's got to be nighttime. There's actually a pool out there. That's my backyard, and there's a pool, but it's not easy to see right now. But yeah, I've been moving things around a bit, and this is I did an auction the other night. Second Chance Records, 2ND, Second Chance, not SECOND, 2ND. So Capone's vault. Yeah, well, never know what's in Capone's vault, right? Geraldo, need you. So the Second Chance Records is the group. So it's a great group, uh, great benefit group. You know, it's one I've been in for a while. And matter of fact, the guy who started the group, Armando Cardoso, great guy. He sells records on this company. His name is Vintage Mio. He's on Discogs, and I think he's going to have a website soon for selling records as well. So look him up if you want to. If you like to buy records at auctions, it's a relatively small group, so it's not like you're bidding against the really high rollers like you do with like Mike Esposito and whatnot. And so a lot of great deals to be had. So if you want to, you know, go to that channel, and it's a private group. You have to join, kind of thing. So I appreciate that. So it's been a lot of there's a lot of shows I think that are going on live. I was noticing the lag time to go live, especially if you do it at the top of an hour, is slower than it ever has been. Getting in there. So, so if you hadn't seen it or whatever, it came out about 4 o'clock today, Central Time, U.S. Acoustic Sound / Analog Productions. Chad Kassem announced their next release. This is not a UHQR; it's just a 2-disc by 45 RPM single album, but it's a double because the 45 stretches it out to have less tracks on each side to give you better sonics. And it is an old album. Now this band is the band that I have seen the most in concert. Over 10, I'd have to count, but it's over 10 times, I know, because I had a good buddy, and Dr. Lund, if you're still on, you know Bobby Dutcher. He was a good friend of mine. He lived really close to where Dr. Ludden grew up. They lived literally a half a block from each other. So we loved this band. We used to go to see them every time they came anywhere near to the area, Chicago area. They even played some smaller halls in Hammond. Yeah, and so I mean, I can actually say the guy who's the lead singer, and the flutist for this group, Jethro Tull, is Ian Anderson. I can honestly say I've been spit on by Ian Anderson because he used to come down right by the front rows off of the stage, and he would just blow that flute, and it just stuff would be flying. But anyway, so the first one, the album coming out is called Stand Up, and it's a Jethro Tull. I got to look at, maybe this may be their first album. I got to double check if it's the first or the second again. But it has a really cool cover. Comes out like that. It's one of the thing that for this one used, and they're always usually torn up or whatever. But this is mine's in good condition. It's an OG or original Chrysalis green label. So I bought these literally back in the day. 1973 Chrysalis. So that's coming out. I think he said next month. So that's I was listening to it before I went live, and the original sound is pretty good. I mean, some of the Tull albums, the sound is a little bit here and there, and Steven Wilson did some remixes, and they're actually pretty good. But it's their second. First one was, yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. That's exactly right. Thank you. Hey, Ricefield, how's it going? You're in Japan, I believe, if I remember right. Yeah, is the remaster worth? Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I get you on that. The thing is, how much can you squeeze out of a Tull? That's the thing. The remixes, and we get back to remixes versus remasters. A remaster doesn't really change any of the content in terms of loudness or softness of individual instruments or voices, because it takes the two-channel tape or whatever, the two-channel source, and it just remasters it to the new media. They can do some things with equalization and maybe compression and things of that nature, but remix means you've got the original 8 or 16 or 24 track, and you have each individual piece of music or voice to play with to not only make it louder or softer, but also move it left or right or whatever. So it's a whole different way to paint a picture than a remaster, which is remasterings do a lot. There's no doubt they can do quite a bit, but they don't do nearly as much. And the Steven Wilson remixes of Tull I find very good, actually. So so that's coming out, and I think the other thing that's going to be coming out is, and this already came out on UHQR, and I have it, is Aqualung, which is probably arguably Tull's most uh, popular album, famous album, well-known album, whatever term you want to use. But that's a good. That's going to be coming out on that format for 65, because the UHQR, I don't remember if it was 100 or 100 and a quarter at the time. But anyway, um, so and it sounds really good. But I do like the Steven Wilson remixes as well, because for my opinion, I didn't think the Tull albums were recorded as well as they could have been. I think that's just what I found a little bit of their stuff a little muddy, I guess I would call it. Um, you know, but I guess when you're in the mud with Aqualung, I guess maybe that's appropriate. But uh, so that was good. Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, I'm going to have to see. Oh, you saw Martin Bohr? Okay. Oh, really? He's still alive? Wow. Not that, I mean, these guys are getting up. The fact that yeah, Martin Barr was good. Yeah, they were a really interesting band. I mean, acquired taste, or either liked them or you didn't. The flute was pretty unique, obviously. It's I really think that like I said, I saw them the most because they were entertaining in a musical kind of way. And Ian Anderson is a great musician. He's done some great non-Tull albums as well. I've got a few that he did with other artists. The music is just wonderful. So, no, I haven't heard the new Jethro Tull album. I'm going to have to look for that. That's good. I mean, I think he's a very creative guy. He's no bar, no Tull. Okay, well, yeah, I mean, there is that aspect. I mean, but Ian being the front man, it's kind of people identify, I think, a lot more with him just because of that. But I think some of the writing and some of the music and some of the content, yeah, that you definitely miss Martin's influences there. Yeah, yeah, there's no doubt you miss that. No Best, no Beatles. Yeah, well, no Pete Best. Um, I guess when you go through life with a name like Best, you always think that you're never going to be upped by anybody, but maybe they found somebody that was better than Best. I guess. Yeah. 50 years with Tull. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, I've been uh, really, like I said, they're musicians, and they were great in concert. I mean, I don't know if anybody's seen them in the recent times, but I know Ian Anderson was just almost, I don't want to say a maniac, but I mean, he was just really got into his music, and he didn't hold back. He didn't even, he's a younger guy. Of course, it's easier, but anyway, so Tull, yeah, that's what's coming out. I know I brought this album up before, but I played it this afternoon again. I don't know what it is about this guy. I've got to and somebody had said there's a couple other great Chris Isaak albums. So if you know of a title of a few of them, if you type them in, I appreciate it, because I do want to pick up more of his stuff. This RSD copy, this Heart Shaped World, this album, this pressing, this mastering is unbelievable. And his voice, I I mean, his voice, the lowness of it, it gets so deep. You feel it in the lower end of your speakers, which typically voices a much more of a mid-range kind of thing. But man, this guy can really has the range. Really, is Who on the Toilet? Are we talking about Jethro Tull again with Ian Anderson? Uh, you mean oh, I'm sorry, you're talking about the Chris Isaak thing. Yeah, I don't know. He may be sitting on a closed toilet. Got his pants up, so I guess he may be not. I don't know. But I'm just saying this is just. I, I mean, I was so surprised by that album. I had heard the recording was great. I bought it because I trusted the people who were telling me how great the recording was. In other words, one you would test a system with, or you would show off a system with. And I said, wow, okay, well, I like to have some of those albums, even if it's not something that I would listen to all the time. It's great to have those to test speakers and to test new cartridges or whatever it is. But and this was, man, the best $28 I spent in a long time. I can tell you that. So yeah, so he may be on the toilet. I don't know. What else did I yank out? Oh yeah. So in case anybody was sitting on a rock under a rock and didn't know, I was talking earlier about my shootout I'm going to be putting online is Donald Fagen, the Nightfly, the one of the two guys from Steely Dan, the lead singer. Um, so that's the album, um, and there was talk that was going to be a album. And then Walter kind of said, "I'm kind of done," and then Donald put it out on his lonesome, and it's a really great sounding album. And I can tell you, just from the shootout, they all sound good. They all sound really good. There's not a dog in the bunch, so to speak. There's one that does sound a little better uh, in certain ways, and I'll go through. I've created like a scale for certain aspects of sonics that I'll be introducing in that video, and I will rate 1 to 10 those aspects because I think there's something to be said for certain aspects of the sound, of it. The depth, is the surface noise, the level of surface noise, where you want a quiet record. That's important too in the mix. So I think sometimes we don't get the picture we get is like it really sounds good. Highs were nice and the lows were okay. And there's a little bit of ambiguity. I'm going to get a little more specific and give you some numbers to go on so that you can actually say, well, that was sounded like maybe the bass was, you know, 2 rating points better than the other one. So it's noticeable enough, right, to where it's there. So Two Against Nature was it was remastered on Analog Productions actually already, and it's been released, as was the last album, which escapes me the name for some reason. The last two Steely Dans have already been released on the 45 RPM 2 LP format by, and I think Bernie did those. And they sound, at least let me put it this way, I didn't get Two Against Nature. I got the last one. Let me see which one that, I forget the name of it off the top of my head for some reason. Okay, looking, I got a bunch of MOVs. I got to skip. No, there it is. It's called Everything Must Go. And that sounds fabulous. That's how would I say, that's a demo kind of a record, in terms of demoing a system. It's really good. And again, yes, it was Bernie Grundman. I just double checked. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The one I was talking about, the one I have is Bernie Grundman. Everything Must Go. So Scott Hull did the other one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I've got I've got the two RSD ones, the record store day ones that came out when they came out. But frankly, I don't think I ever opened them. I just kind of was keeping them from being RSDs. So let's see what we got home. I just bought Nightfly. I thought I was getting the Chris Bellman cut, but it's some version not in Discogs with SW as the initials. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, that yes. Chris Bellman, as in recut, I'm assuming, Homer, is what you're talking about. Um, it's hard. I mean, new. You can do a little bit of traceability, but some of these records, they don't even. Some of the barcodes are the same across releases, and it gets a little different. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, see, same UPC code. Yeah, until you open it up, you don't know what the hell you got. That's the thing about used ones. At least you can open it up. You can look in the dead wax and see what you got. No, it's not. It's their last album, actually. Everything Must Go. It was their last release. So I don't think it's a demo, actually, to be honest with you. I don't. Maybe it is, and I just don't know that. To be fair, I mean, but I know it was their last release, but I never heard any history on it that made me think it was a demo. It doesn't sound like a demo, I can tell you that. It sounds like a well done studio album. It may be demo tunes that they redid or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely not a demo. It sounds really good. I mean, it's a really. I think it's well. Here's the thing. Two Against Nature is a digital master, and Everything Must Go is an analog. So that was one of the two differences as well. That doesn't, in and of itself, make it good or bad necessarily, but it is one of the distinctions. And that's Bernie didn't do that one. Scott Hull redid that one. the songs on that one I don't like as well. I listen to it on Spotify, to be honest. Sometimes I break down and do that just because I want to hear what something sounds like before I put any more money into it. So, um, but we're only a few weeks away, 3 weeks away, I guess, from the Can't Buy a Thrill release. I'm thrilled to be getting that. The Revolver box set comes out in 2 weeks. I did order that as well. So more, one of the main reasons too was to get the mono, because it was cut analog as well on new equipment. So I'm anxious to. That's why they didn't use the old plates from the box set, mono box set, was they had new equipment that they mastered that through. So kind of anxious to hear what's going on with that one as well. So new releases. I was watching a couple of videos on new releases and RSD releases coming up, and I was not enthused with anything I saw on new releases for RSD. I don't know if anybody here was. Of course, in fairness, I'm not a big live guy. I don't like live records a lot. I like a few. I like Frampton. I like Stop Making Sense by the Talking Heads. I mean, there are some that I like, but in general, I just, not really, uh, because a lot of times they're not recorded that great. They don't play them anything like the song actually is when they've recorded it. I mean, they're just reasons that I don't. If I've been to a concert, I might like it better because then it recreates the aura of having been there and been in the concert. So those sometimes have a little more of a drive for me. So I don't know if Vivian Lund is on this or not, but she did a really nice contest video, and I really appreciated her comments and her, uh, her submissions into the contest in terms of the bands were three of my favorite as well. And also shout out, of course, to Rachel and Rachel's Ghosts and Harry, who has submitted, and the Spin Doctor and Joe Marino. Is it Marino? Yeah, Marino. I want to make sure it wasn't Martino. I didn't think it was. And their submissions as well. So Nils Lofgren Acoustic Live. Yeah, I've heard that recently. So this is a fantastic blues record. Okay. For a minute, I thought that said the Waxed, and I was like, wait a minute, we're not going to go there. Yeah, yeah, Dave. Um, yeah, Rarity's album would be nice. I would like to see that. That would be nice to see. And maybe at some point, I'm sure. Sometimes you get some of these releases. They do so many of them. It's crazy. Kind of Blue, for example. It's like the milk and the cow at every label you can get to. I mean, it's just like wow, how many, you know, and it's not that it isn't a great album. It's just that it's saturation, I guess, is the word. I guess I want to say, But for those that hi Vivian, nice to see you there. Thanks for the video very much. I really enjoyed it. The three bands she picked are three of my favorite bands, ironically, and I didn't know about the Badfinger thing, so that was interesting. I don't think I knew about the Petty thing either. So yeah, those two, the Beatles I did, but obviously, but yeah, those other two. So that's what I like about as people go and do a little investigation or they know something, they share with you. So, yeah, okay, Billy Joel's live is great. I literally sold all my Billy Joel albums, so I just had kind of had heard enough, and part of me said any guy that could lose Christy Brinkley, I just don't know. I don't get it. I'm just okay. Yeah, but that's just me. Anyway, there's a few artists that I just, kind of, I think them, Bruce Springsteen. So I just, I never listen to it anymore. So don't plan to. So, and there are other groups I think I'm probably getting close to that on as well. So my selling my OGs will be somebody else's benefit. So, uh, yeah, Ricefield Records. You're talking about Billy Joel in San Francisco. You saw a few times. I'm not. I just want to be sure. I didn't know who you were speaking of, but yeah, or unless you meant Lofgren. I'm not sure. Nils Lofgren. I'm gonna have to look that one up because frankly, I've heard that, like I said, several times now. So again, that's where I do like to find records that are sonically, really superior. Now, today I had to do a little workout, so I got out my non-Jane Fonda workout aerobic. So, and I knew that I worked out really hard because when I was done with that, I smelled like bacon. So, I guess I really got into it. So there you go. That's a reality for me. So anyway, yeah, I was going to try out for a play for Christmas, and now if I'm going to be in Europe, I don't know that I can do that. I just was noticing a script or two that I have over here, um, and I guess I'm probably not going to be able to do that. That's well, you can only do so much, um, and this takes a little time too, which is enjoyable. So one of the topics that I wanted to mention today was compilations. So let's see if I got one here. Yeah, I did compilations. So here's a compilation. Now this is a Sound of Bread. It's through KTEL, but it's released through Warner Special Products, or yeah, products. So it's got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 8 songs on each side. So I was listening to this because I had just gotten it in the mail. I'd gotten it in an auction. I was looking at the record and I'm thinking, boy, there's a lot of songs. Um, and look at how the grooves are kind of squished together, or the songs. And I realized, yeah, these really sound compressed, and they do compress the sound, meaning it doesn't have as much dynamic range because they want to fit as much on that record as they can on one side. Whereas when you go to the release by Bread from the album that they have for either their greatest hits or this, you get 5, maybe 6 songs on a side. So, compilations are really about value, about giving you more for your money, giving 18 songs for, whatever it was at the time, $8, $10, whatever it was. And, the regular albums don't, and then they give you all the hits, of course, usually, which is great. But there is a price to pay, so to speak, no pun intended, for that, and that is that you don't listen to compilations if you're an audiophile, right? You don't. You don't, and it's these are convenient to have if you're not really listening hard. You have it on the other room, or whatever. It's nice to get more songs and not be getting up as much or having to change it or whatever. But it really struck me, how compressed this was. This was a couple-dollar record. It's no big deal. I probably will give it to one of my kids. So to have a compilation of that, but yeah, you're right. That's the bottom line. You don't, but it is, again, it's a matter of, if I want to sit down and listen to Bread, I've got a mobile fidelity of Baby I'ma Want You, and it sounds great. I just wish they'd put their catalog out. Frankly, I wish somebody would put their catalog out on some sort of higher end pressing. I've got the quadraphonics of 3 or 4 of their albums as well. It sound decent, but it reminded me just of the compilation thing, which exactly what you're saying, Homer, is exactly right. And it wasn't. I was listening to it because I had just bought it and wanted to see, kind of. I wanted to grade it, I guess, in my mind. I need to clean it, I think. But you're right. That's the case. You don't get into those at all. So I did get a couple of box sets. I got a small. These are 45 box sets. I got a Freddie Mercury box set of I think 13 singles that he did from the UK, and then I got the Rolling Stones singles box set. So those are haven't opened them up to listen to them yet, but those are a couple. I got the Eagles Legacy box set, which I like the Eagles quite a bit. I do have a few of their one steps as well, and it'll be interesting to see. Um, be interesting to see if how much of a difference there is between the Legacy box set versus the one steps. Because so far the one steps I've heard, first two were stellar. I haven't gotten one of these nights or on the border. I probably won't get on the border. I may get one of these nights, but definitely going to get Hotel California. I've had that ordered. Let's see. I got rid of my Billy Joel to buy Miss Piggy. Yeah, that's what you do. You rotate stock, right? You just so Billy couldn't stay with Christy, but I could stay with Miss Piggy. So I guess did someone say? Oh yeah, intergroove distortion on the compilations. Yeah, you can. I mean, the quality of the vinyl, I could hear some. I don't want to say humps and bumps kind of thing where it wasn't really the surface wasn't smooth. So let's face it, they used to sell those in Walgreens. So come on. Yeah, it's yeah, some record stores wouldn't even carry them. So, but they're there. That they serve a market. Like everything else. But yeah, I was thinking about it. And then another example. Then you get this. Uh, this is a UK Cyndi Lauper Time After Time 12-inch record, right? So you get this, and of course you got two songs on a side, and you're going 45 RPM, which is long sound, really, really good. You have much better bass out of those farther apart, and you do have the 45 RPM going. So yeah, so it just there's a guy that has a channel called Depressing Matters, and I thought that's a great channel name because it's so true. Depressing does matter. I haven't sold all my Elton John too. No, I still got my Elton John. Um, I guess when I can fully pull myself away from Goodbye Yellow Brick Road and Madman Across the Water, then I think those are the two that keep me in with Elton. Um, so Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, I've got a 5.1 of that SACD that sounds, boy, yeah, it's immersive. I guess that's the right word for it, is immersive. So, but I've got a Nautilus Super Disc of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road 2 that is great as well. So I think that, like Billy Joel, I only had the CBS half speed masters, which weren't super high end because they introduced digital pretty early. In Springsteen, same way, they were both CBS. Maybe I've got a CBS problem. Maybe that's what it is. Since they introduced DSD into MoFi, I subconsciously have gone anti Sony / CBS, and yeah, maybe that's it. Cyndi Lauper was Sony Epic, so I guess not total washout, but I don't know, but yeah, I definitely still have my my Elton John stuff, and but yeah, you start eventually peeling off, a little bit here and there. Um, New bands. I was going to mention a couple of new bands. Has anybody heard of a band called Bad Sons? How about Walk the Moon? Walk the Moon a lot. I like. What's that band? Just uh, yeah, Walk the Moon. I like quite a bit. Bad Sons. I like. They're more. I guess if I was going to say they're like indie bands. I guess I'll say. What's the other one? Come on. Young the Giant. That's it. Young the Giant. So there are some newer bands that I do like, but it's not nearly, as much as stuff that came out before, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, kind of pre-automatically. Most of it you would like. Um, some of it was an acquired taste. Like Rush to me is an acquired taste because of the vocalist. The music's fine, but the vocalist, it's either you like that vocalist or you don't. I mean, it's so different and unique and predominant that you just, to me, it makes up so much of who the band is. No matter what they sound like melodically, the voice will get you. So I don't know about Wilco, to be honest. I've heard of them. I've seen that they just came out with a release of some kind. I don't know, so I'll have to check them out. I will put them on my search list. I appreciate that. I got that and the Live Nils Lofgren on my search list. So thank you. I like new ideas. That's not Roger Wilco, right? That Roger Wilco out. That old saying. Is it Wilco's the one that has like a picture of a radio on it or something like that? An old style radio, if I remember. I saw one recently. Yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of good bands. You're right. And time is always a precious commodity, right? But my daughter, Classic Crime was a band. May MAE was a band. My daughter was she managed a local place called The Door, which was a venue for bands to come. And I used to see a lot of bands, a lot of different bands, newer bands, bands that moved on to become pretty famous. So nice shirt. Where did I get it? Vintage Mio. So again, this is a company of a good friend of mine, Armando Cordoso, and he has a page on Facebook called Second Chance Records. That's 2ND Records, not second spelled out. And it's his. I got him through him. That's his company. I think he'll be having a website here soon. He also is a seller on Discogs. Vintage Mio. He also occasionally does Whatnot, but he's always on Discogs, of course. Yankee Frost Hotel. Okay. Uh, yeah. So it's yeah, Vintage Mio. So I buy. He is kind of the guy that started that channel. I do auctions on that channel, Second Chance Records. Um, Occasionally, I did a couple last week actually, trying to rotate some duplications out of my collection. I got a bunch more. I just literally got to cleaning records I bought from my trip to Europe in June today. So I'm going to go through and find my duplicates of those and uh, sell one of the two that I have, kind of thing, depending which I think, which pressing I find most appealing to me at least. Been a lot of videos lately about originals, OGs, and their sound quality and how good they really are when you start to really get a good copy of one. And I think that's generally true. Um, I've been my issue with some OGs is the quality of the vinyl, the noise floor, the amount of noise you hear. which again, the noise floor is important with certain records. Like if you have a quieter record or your quieter sounding music, let's say the Carpenters or jazz or whatever, then the noise floor is more evident. If it's all rock, cover to cover rock, the noise floor is not going to be as big a deal, except that the lead in groove and between tracks, right? That's it. So you're not going to notice it as much. Um, but for those records that do have quieter nuance, like Days of Future Past by Moody Blues, that's an album where the noise floor is irrelevant. Because you're going to hear it, it's going to be distracting. So, so some of the reissues on better vinyl, if they're mastered well, uh, and hopefully if they use the original tape, they can sound better. But OGs do well kept, well preserved, well maintained, well cleaned OGs um, are very, very strong. I mean, they are really, that when they were made and the fact that the equipment they were really focused on production of those, and I think that just the problem they ran into was a vinyl. In the 70s, the oil crisis, they started to recycle vinyl. That was terrible. They weren't using clean vinyl. They did the upper level records used virgin vinyl. That's what when they started using virgin vinyl, HAVC vinyl for MoFi, MFSL back in '77. The reason was they were countering the dirty vinyl that was coming out from '74 on from the gas crisis. So, and now you have you have super vinyl coming out of MoFi, you have clarity vinyl coming out of Analog Productions acoustic sound. So, these are all ways to get cleaner vinyl. But you go back and look, A&M Records almost exclusively was the label which used a lot of virgin vinyl. So if you hold up a record to the light, you can see that light through the vinyl. It's so pure. So those were quieter vinyls and better vinyl compounds. So check out the band Moon Taxi, Dawes, and Coin. Coin I've heard. Coin I like. They are one. My daughter turned me on to them. Walk the Moon live. I haven't. I just saw they announced a tour, 10-year anniversary tour. I just saw that. Excited about the Beatles Revolver. Yes, I mentioned that earlier that I am going to get it. I'd ordered it. It's supposed to come out on 28th. I'm not sure what day I'll get it exactly, but I ordered it. Yeah, I'm excited to hear how good the mono sounds with the new equipment they use to master it, and of course the remix was a very uh, interesting mix because it was done on such primitive methods, and then they basically used artificial intelligence technology that had been used in movies, I guess. Peter Jackson and they use this equipment to basically strip out and separate things more distinctly to be able to create more of a multi-track master to then mix to. So really, really interesting stuff going on in the back office, so to speak, in the mixing rooms and in the technology that does this. There's so much AI involved in a lot of these processes and processors that go on. It's really doing some things that once were, seemed impossible. Yeah, that's a great question, KJ, about that. If there were, the pressing, when you get down to it, a lot of pressing plants use equipment that was from back then. So you don't necessarily have as much of a difference there with the new stuff as you might think you do. Um, I think the mastering was done more in line with what the artist, the collaboration at that time of what they wanted and how they wanted it to sound was, how to put it, it was fresh. It was spot on. And anytime now, you're always going to get someone's um, reinterpretation or reanalysis of how they think it should sound. Now, remixing, that's a whole, they can really repaint that picture quite a bit. Remastering, it's not, you don't have as much flexibility. But the emphasis on the sound, and the other thing I think psychologically is a lot of us have heard this before. I did a video on this, and if Dr. Lund's still in here, she's a psychological expert. And I mean Dr. Victoria Lund, not Vivian Lund. We have a Vivian and a Victoria. I'm confused, but anyway, so we remember these things and the way they sound and the impression they have on us is kind of burned in a bit too, and so that I think does have some influence on it, no doubt in my mind. Heaven, how are you, buddy? Thanks for joining. Can I be talked into staying with my current name? Well, I've had a lot of opinions, and I will say this: I have a growing respect and sentiment for the name, which I I think I was ready to write off kind of holistically when this started a bit. So I will say that you and some other people have certainly helped me kind of keep a bit of a perspective on that. So I don't want to go too much into what the change will be, but it'll be announced on Sunday because I moved the contest expiration to Saturday night, basically at midnight. But stay tuned. That's all I can say. It's charming and suits me. Okay, well, if you think it's charming, that must mean somebody thinks I'm charming, and at that point, I say, "What? No, come on, Dr. Lund, you got to comment on that." uh, I don't. Vivian, are you a doctor, by the way? If you're a doctor, then I really got a coincidence going on here. Because Vivian, I could tell you when I saw your name pop up, all I saw was Lund. I assumed it was Dr. Lund, and then it was you, and I'm like, wow, that is so coincidental. Uh, yeah, yeah, I did a video on that, and I did some research into that, and it was amazing to me. All of the what really goes on. I mean, it's the old story. I mean, I think I say it in the video. Why is it that I can remember the words to a song I hadn't heard in 20 years when it comes on the radio or Spotify or wherever, and I can't find my phone that I left 5 minutes ago somewhere? Why is that just crazy to me? But this we'll schedule a few sessions. Thank you. I need more than a few, but the thing about Dr. Lund and I, as friends for all these years, we get on the phone, we can talk for hours, literally for hours. It just, I don't know. Since high school, it's just been that way. She's she she wanted to get into drama and doing theater back in high school, and I was already involved, so that's how we got to know each other. And she was the best Laura I've ever seen in the Glass Menagerie by Tennessee Williams. She was fabulous. So a lot of great memories there for sure. So you're not a doctor. Mazur and electrical engineering was enough. Electrical engineering, that is so cool. I've got an engineering background, so I love that. That's nice. Very nice. Did you buy Pork and Bess from MoFi and the Janus Brothers? No, I did not. That's probably not more into my genre as much, frankly. So that's I read about them, but I tiptoe into that genre occasionally, usually for sonic appreciation. But it's not like that would be on my want list usually on Discogs, for example. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Well, there's very how it is in life. There's very few people you know for a long, long time in your life. So the ones that you do, it's special, obviously. But some of the folks we learn to know here in the vinyl community, you don't even meet them necessarily, but they really, it's really great to get to know them and to help them out. There was somebody on this feed, by the way. I wanted to mention this. and I think it was one of our Latin folks, what the name it was having trouble getting hold of an anniversary edition of Sergeant Pepper's. So if you know who that was or remember who that was or you're that person, let me know. They were saying they were like $200, which is outrageous. So I can definitely, I have some extras of that sealed. So I'm not, I just want to, I'll sell you just to, whatever I paid for plus whatever shipping is. I don't want to see people get put in that kind of position for something they really want. That's crazy to me. I just don't get that at all. Doesn't make sense. You got to share the love when it comes to music. That's for sure, because it's a thing that transcends our differences. Whether they're personal, political, whatever, it doesn't matter. I mean, music can transcend that, and that's what I think is really the healing magic of it, right? Am I interested in the new? We're going to call this Chad's pop-up, right? Yeah. That one. I said this earlier. I'm sure you probably weren't on. That's fine. So I pulled this out today when I heard of this, and I listened to it. I mean, it's when I've been to Tull probably at least 12 times. I'd say. I know it's over 10 in concert over the years, especially in their heyday years, and so I really have an appreciation for their music. But I had to listen to it really to get back to remembering all the songs that were on that record. So, is it a $65 album for me? Is one question. Does it have the sonics to be a good sounding or great sounding album? Is the second thing. And I can just say at a cursory statement, I played one side before I started. The sound of it was better than I had remembered, and better than I thought Aqualung was, ironically. So it may have some possibilities in that regard. And that may be one of the reasons Chad picked it, to be frank with you, knowing him, knowing Chad Kassem. He may have recognized that there were sonic opportunities with that. So, because he seems to be pick and choosing out of the catalog, he picked Aqualung, which again, the Steven Wilson remixes of the Jethro Tull stuff I find very nice. I like them, and they're not outrageously expensive or anything. So, is this a reprise? No, it's a chrysalis. So, I thought this was what it came out on originally, actually. So, if it came on reprise as well, I'm honestly not aware of that, because I know I bought it when it came out. I'm sure of that, because I was following Tull pretty closely. I liked him from the get-go. A good buddy of mine liked him before I did, and he turned me on to him. So, but I liked the first Queen album. I liked the first Kansas album, and I remember people saying, Queen and Kansas, those groups aren't going to make it. They're not. Okay, but it happens. So I don't know yet, to be honest, KJ. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I listened to one side of it, and I recalled it with fond memories. Actually, I was like, oh, that's great. It's even got that. There's like an instrumental on that side that's really good. It brought back some nice memories, actually, just to hear that one side. So I'd say there's a fair chance I'll do it. There's a fair chance I'll do it. Yeah, were they 60 last time for the 2x45? I can't remember. But and all I can say is this. My wife, we were just talking today. She said, "Hey, I use cream in my coffee, half and half." She said, "Yeah, this cream, it went up from $4.29 to $5.60, or I don't remember what, but it was over $1, well over $1. 25% increase just out of the blue. This is unfortunately right now the world we live in. look at the inflation reports coming out. Look at the producer price index, consumer price index. It hits everybody. Pay, people's pay has gone up quite a bit in terms of, jobs that people would work for 10 or 12 bucks. Now they want 15, 18, $20. So, I'm not judging it. I'm just saying that it all, comes down. What flows downhill, and our pocketbook is the downhill part of that, right? So, if it was a $5 increase on that, that's not too bad. But I know the UHQRs, when they jump from 125 to 150, that's a pretty big jump. Yeah. Oh, you're in Holland. Okay. Rate of inflation's 18%. Well, I will tell you that whatever you hear the U.S. inflation rate is, it is understated. And the reason I say that, in all honesty, is they change every year what makes up the inflation figure, and products come in and go out, and so they put things like televisions in there. Well, televisions bring the number down because you can get a 65-inch TV for less than you would have a year ago, right? So there are things that are in certain electronics and things that are in there that pull the number the other way, pull it south. And then that way, the things that are higher, or 12, 18% in that range, they get averaged out. So, back even when they said we had, quote, zero inflation, we didn't have zero inflation. I mean, there still were increases in meats and, things at the grocery store there, but other things were balancing those out. So the inflation rate figures a bit of, what's the word I want to use? Sleight of hand. There's a little bit of filtering going on there that affects what the reality of it is. Now, on the other end, people with Social Security next year are going to get like 8% increase, the biggest increase since 81 or 80, back at the end of the Jimmy Carter era. Because I remember I bought a house in Houston when I lived down there, and I paid, I think, 18% interest on the house. And I think the house I have now, it's like 2.5 or something, but I bought it like 3 years ago. So, yeah, fuel costs. I mean, diesel fuel here in the U.S. is still way higher than regular gasoline, and that is used for everything. Yeah, it is going to be tough. Next couple of years are going to be tough. There's no doubt. And if there's a major war, God forbid, in many ways, because that's just going to be another pressure on the markets and all. So, people's disposable income is not what it used to be. That's for sure, and I get that. That's a reality. And I mean, just look at your investments. I was going to say 401k, but maybe they don't know what that is in Europe. So investments, the value of if you have stocks or things like that, or they take a hit. They go both ways. We talk about them a lot when they go down. We don't talk about them much when they go up. But it could be a tough sledding. It could all be Melinda Murphy. Well, I'll say Melinda's. I just report the news kind of a thing, because I think if you look back at a video that I did in mid-August, I told you all that I had seen a 20 to 25% increase in several of the stores in Dallas in the last 4 weeks on used records. So, yeah, I honestly haven't looked at my 401k, Vivian. I honest. Let's go, Brand. Okay, well, there's always a lot of factors that affect it. I mean, but the point is, it's really gotten out of control. And the only thing I will say on that is, I think there seems to be a hope and a prayer, or a wish that it's not going to be as bad as it is already. And I can remember when George Bush Sr. was president, and people said, yeah, he just doesn't get it. He's living in the affluent, whatever, and he's not doesn't understand what people are going through. And I think we've got some of that going on right now too. People, I mean, it's tough. But the chickens always come home to roost when you $30 trillion in debt. And you give money away, and then you got to make up for it somehow, and you pay people's wages during the pandemic. That all eventually that all comes back at some point, somehow, some way. No free lunch. I think that's the old saying, right? So you know, so I was saying Melinda's video was espousing what she had noticed at a fair she went to. $49 for a Rumors album, and $80, or I can't remember what it was, but I went to the San Antonio show, and there were people asking $80 for a couple Steely Dan albums. Can't buy a Thrill in Asia. Now they're not going to get that. I don't think. I think they're going to get maybe 50 from somebody who really, really wanted it. And now they might. I don't know what they would get now with the announcements that have come out by Analog Productions and Universal. But my point is that's the market has been shifting upward in the last few months. I think there's kind of just an adjustment going on, and people are paying more for buying lots, I think, right now too. So that trickles down. Lots meaning hundreds and hundreds of records, um, and so we'll see. The guy from Toad Hall did a video today talking about the fact that some of the stuff is cheaper now, or getting going down, or more available. In other words, I think he was saying like, well, now you get the MoFi Billy Joel the Stranger, and you can buy it for whatever the retail is there, $59.99 or whatever it is, as opposed to paying 110, in Discogs or whatever. So I think that's kind of the comparison that he's making. But that same album was $45 a year and a half ago. So inflation's already hit that. Some people were ahead of the curve. Universal was ahead of the curve. They announced in June a 20 to 25% increases. The Beatle, a lot of Beatle albums that were $24.99 went up to $34.99. They went up 33%. And I'm seeing it now. Old stock is rotated out. Now I'm seeing newer stock coming in, and yeah, that's what they are. So you know. Oh, she got some flack for showing the knife. Okay, I got you. I'm sorry. I was assuming it was her last video on the price increases we were talking about. But yeah, a lot of people did unboxings, and Michael 45 did. I mean, a lot of people did those. You know, that was a $600 album the last time it came out. So there's another 33% increase. But again, people were paying $2,000 on the open market for people that bought it for $600. So the net difference to someone who would want it was they were paying $1,100 less by spending $900. So that's the market dynamics, up and down, and but yeah, I mean, $900, that's a lot of money to put out, right? I don't. When I bought the Beatles, 50% increase is what KJ says. Oh, you mean on the Bill Evans? I thought, okay. Yeah, I guess depending where you do your math. Yeah, it's a third more expensive, I guess, is what it is. Yeah, okay. Yeah, uh, including import fees. Yeah, okay. I believe that would be true. Yeah, you're definitely getting hit with that and shipping and all of that. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, I bought some stuff from the UK coming this way, and I had to pay a little bit more. But I mean, by the way, uh, the dollar exchange value to the pound or the Swedish kroner or the euro or whatever is really so good. So if there is something out there that you maybe didn't want to buy because of the exchange rate, you might want to take a second look, even if you're paying some shipping, because there are some, the exchange rate is working in the favor of the U.S. Same way with Canadian stuff. So there is that aspect. Yeah. 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 So, yeah. I know, KJ. I know what you're saying there. Let's see. Yeah, FedEx. Well, I paid. I shipped one record, and a couple of little loose items to Rachel, and it was $33 or $38 to Canada. It was a little under. It was under 3 pounds. It was 2 pounds something. So yeah, it's not cheap. Nothing's cheap. Nothing's reasonable. You gotta be smart. When you buy multiples. If you're buying an auction, you don't buy much. Ask them if they can, put it, pay your shipping on the first one, and then if you can buy in the next auction, then double up the shipment and save a few dollars. Yeah, stock is going to dry up. That is true, and it's regional. It depends where you're at. I mean, I was on Rachel's stream this morning, and the wax was. We were talking about Steely Dan. He was showing it. He said, "I got a couple of these, a gaucho in Asia. I got a couple of these in the last 6-8 weeks. Here local." And I said, "Well, it's funny in Dallas Fort Worth. They're hard to find. They're hard to find in the stores. I mean, I'd say 19 times out of 20, when I go into a record store and I go into the S's or look at the Steely Dan tab, there's nothing there. Zip. So maybe regionally, a lot more people bought Steely Dan out in the West Coast, and they're selling. I don't know. Who knows why? But it is regional, not reasonable. I'm not reasonable, but I'm reasonable. Uh, well, Kahaba, you're a better person than I have. Spent more money than $65, but like I was going to say earlier, the Beatles collection, the black box Beatles MoFi. I think I paid. I want to say 325 maybe tops when it came out, 295 something like that. I mean, I bought two of them actually. I've got one in a box still. It hasn't been opened, and you know that was 19 was it 82 80 probably 84 85 somewhere in there. Yeah. So I did the inflation check on that, and it's about about what it goes for. And it was about 2 grand. I can get 2 grand. It's probably around 1,500 or so in dollars. Yeah, when you start comparing, what the value of a dollar was back then, there's calculators, of course, for that. Yeah, the cost of old CDs is down. Yeah, that's a good value right now. That will, there's going to be a boomerang on that too. You watch, there will be. There will be. Because even CDs are not releasing as much because of streaming and what have you. So, its day is coming. I've been trying to get more SACDs to get the multi-channel stuff because I like to listen to that on my Oppo because I got a quad setup for LPs. I've got quite a few quad albums as well. So you know the reason for that is it's kind of like it gets you one step closer to the actual mixing room. Because you're hearing stuff separated a little more and more distinctly, like you would if you were in a multi-track. So you got a 4-channel multi-track now instead of a 2-channel, and you do hear things come out much stronger than when they're in 2-channel because they're kind of buried, so to speak. Or maybe their volume isn't as high, and so when it comes out separate, they bring it up a bit, and so you do get a lot of distinctions in that. Second in AAD. Yeah, AAD is the best. Yeah. That's a SPARS code, analog recording, analog uh, tape, and then digital mastering is what that basically stands for. So, um, Yeah, so CDs are a good value. There's no doubt about that. I tried to pick up some of the HD CDs they get out of Japan, the 20-bit. They sound really good as well. Okay, you compared the OG was much better. Okay. Yeah, I think again, I just think part of it is the fact that when you're on a project and you're working the project and the music and the artists and everything, there's a much tighter group thinking through how they want it to sound and what they want it to be representative of. And I think you end up with that stylization coming out into that product. After the others are secondary thoughts, and some people get them really well, especially it seems to me, especially the guys who really they lived in that time. Your Grunmans, your Ted Jensens, your Kevin Grays. They really get it, and they're teaching guys like Brian K. Smith, who's a younger guy but has really learned and tutelage of the guys at Sterling Studios, and so there is that aspect of the kind of the soft spot of the way they do it, the kind of the soft side, not they understood a lot more about the way the music was laid in there and why it was done the way it was done, and it's not a transactional. There's some emotion in the actions that were taken. Whereas now some of this stuff is very transactional. Get the cheapest engineer, get the cheapest mastering, get the and they're just they're gunning for the profits, of course. DSD remastered. Well, it all what here's what should happen. What should happen is the DSD, to stream the copy, it should be straight, just a straight copy off of the analog tape. Whatever was laid down on that analog tape. That should be step one. Then taking the DSD and cutting analog and cutting from analog and cutting from digital are really kind of a little bit two different sciences. You got people like Steve Wilson who are really good on the digital side of doing that, and they have a better mind for that, and they have a better sensitivity to analog's nature to try to make it analog-ish. The other guys who are the older, they're much better at what they know well and what so it's hard to, I would ask who was involved, and then, maybe judging it might be a little easier than that. Now, will it sound better than the OG? It would, the odds are no. I say the odds are no. In other words, if I had to place a bet, I would place a bet on the OG, but there are exceptions to that. There are, like the Pink Floyds that came out that were remastered. Now, I'm not saying they're as good as the OG, but they're darn good for what they are to be remasters. So it really, it's like any restaurant. It's a matter of who's the cook in the kitchen. It matters who bought the pieces of vegetable or meat or whatever, and the quality of that went into what's being made. And the spices are kind of like the experience and the nuances, and that really determines what the outcome of that soup or stew or meal is. You can take the same basic ingredients and get different outcomes based on the way the chef prepares the meal and their particular tricks of the trade. So it's not. There's ingredients that go into there that make it up, and it takes just a certain combination for it to be right. That's a good question. KJ's asking about the original RL Led Zeppelin 2 and why it can't be just duplicated as is. Um, I don't know. Is there still fear of equipment failure when you play it? I mean, it is pretty rough on your cantilever and your stylus and your cartridge in terms of movement. Um, but there's nothing like it. That's for sure. I mean, I've digitized it in the highest grade I could, and it still didn't have the feel at all that it did coming off the vinyl. Wasn't even close. So I don't know. I guess they destroyed the plates from that. I'm assuming. I guess that was the case because of they really didn't want to. They really didn't want any more getting out because of liability. So that's unfortunate. I mean, I know our equipment's better, but there still are a lot of people who don't own equipment that can navigate that. Which, yeah, Pyrrhos's Led Zepp is good. Now, it's kind of like I don't know if you've heard or experienced. I don't even want to say heard. I want to say experienced the RL version. It 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 gets you. I mean, it's a step up. It's a notch up. You feel it more than you hear it. Actually, is what I would say about it. That's my impression of it. I got one and bought it, and it didn't sound good. It had pops, and it was not. The guy said it was VG plus. It really wasn't to me, and he took it back. He was very fair about it. It wasn't a problem. But then I bought one in Sweden that was $40, and it was in better condition. I don't obviously think the shop holder knew what he had, and it's fabulous. So if you hunt, every time you see one, look. Every time you see one. And I would tell you, even if the outside cover is the newer SD number, the 5 digit, look, because you never know. Somebody might have stuffed that into a different jacket. It's worth the 30-second look. I would tell you that. Yeah, if you haven't heard it, I mean, like I said, you feel it, you experience it. It's just so unique. It's so unique that it just. So we're talking here about records and tracking, essentially tracking a record. So one of the guys who is in my in the Second Chance Records group, a guy who's bought some records from me, he said, "Hey, I'm having trouble. I've got this Stevie Wonder Greatest Hits, number one hits, double vinyl, red from Target, and darn thing skips on a couple tracks, a couple times on one track, once on another track." And I said, "Wow, I've had it. I haven't had the experience." So he sent me a video of what it was doing, and I gave him some advice on the cleaning method to try to use, and it didn't make any difference. And so I said, "Well," I said, the last thing I would try, and it's kind of the last thing I try, and it works a lot of the time actually. If it's not debris and it's really just in the vinyl where just the needle can't quite navigate it, and he had an AT60 Audio Technica, which doesn't have force control for the vertical downward force of it, and it doesn't have any skate adjustment. So it's riding the grooves in its own little God knows what it's doing kind of thing. So I told him if he plays in that area where it's skipping and he kind of holds the very end where the cartridge head shell is, there's a little like a U-shaped thing that comes out or straight thing that you would lift the head shell up with. If you kind of hold it very softly and don't shake, just hold it as it's going in that area, and and I'm not saying pull on it, but keep a little bit of pressure on it. You sometimes can literally teach it or carve it a little piece of that just to get it into that. And I'll be damned, he said they all got fixed by doing that. So I've done that a lot. I mean, I haven't had a lot of. I mean, a lot of the time that has been the solution if cleaning didn't solve it. So I may do a little short video on that to show people how to do it. precisely. It's probably he's obviously easier seen than discussed in terms of that. So yeah, Puros was very good. Yeah, no, he was very good. But you're right, he wasn't as well known, and um, there's some great engineers that are out there that aren't as well known as well. Mastering and mixing engineers. There's just certain people. It's like uh, the guy who was the engineer, not the mastering engineer, but the mixing engineer on Chicago 17, Umberto Gatica. I mentioned him. He's Gatica, Umberto Gatica. He just anything he's on is going to sound just fabulous. You just know it. It's like David Foster, right? You just know that it's going to have a really impactful sound. And so I get as many presses of different kinds of Chicago 17 as I can because I like it and I like to hear how the mastering affects, the mix that he did. So yeah, penny. I'm not talking about pennies on top of a cartridge, but you're right. We did used to do that. I mean, that was the only way I could get Satisfaction to play by the Stones on the 45. I mean, it was just plowing the needle just was not living in that groove for Satisfaction. It was just certain things. Jumpin' Jack Flash, same way. I can remember the place in Jumpin' Jack Flash that used to skip. And you know why? Because when I hear that song, my brain waits for it to skip. It says, oh, that part's coming where it's going to skip, and then it doesn't. So, I mean, that's literally grooved into my brain. I've got grooves in my brain too, I guess. I mean, you used to do what you had to do, but yeah, you would, yeah. I mean, I've got old 45s that I know I played them on an older player and they're not, they're neat to look at, but I wouldn't put them on. They probably sound pretty bad. Yeah, but that is an interesting thought. Who would have, what would things sound like if it wasn't done by mastering engineer X and done by mastering engineer Y? That's uh, that's great. Wouldn't it be nice to have the luxury as an artist maybe to say, okay, Bernie, Kevin, Ted, I want you guys to all master this. And I want to get the lacquers and I want to listen to them. I want to see which one I like, see which one gets the right interpretation of how I think it should sound. That would be neat. I've heard of them using a mastering engineer and not liking it and killing the contract and getting someone else. I've heard of that happen for sure. But I've not heard, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen, where people actually said, hey, I'm going to contract this out and I'll pick the best of the three. Yeah. Oh yeah, the Telarc 18. Yeah, there was even like a sticker or something on there that said, "Be careful, loud boom." Yeah, no, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that too. It was like I say a test, but it was used. I remember in some higher end shops, where they'd go and they kind of go, well, this is the difference between a $300 and a $3,000 turntable. The $300 turntable cannot even track this record, and the 3,000 has no problem with it. So no one can ever say there's not, a difference in the capability and quality. It was, and it was true. I mean, it wasn't that it wasn't true, but how many 1812 overtures with that cannon blast are you going to be playing? Right? It was kind of the extreme. Yeah. Yeah, one step there being direct to disc. Direct to disc meant they were cutting as they were playing. Not one step like MoFi says one step. One step in the direct to disc uh, method, which is which is the, I mean, yeah, you can't beat it, but you're live then, right? You know, every bodily function is heard. Let's put it that way. All right, nobody gets to eat at Taco Bell for the recording session we're having tonight, okay? Let's just, and no Coca-Cola. Let's that kind of thing. Because you were laying it down on the lacquer as you did it. But man, you're right. That nothing sounded like that. That was the real deal, for sure. But yeah, everything else is a gross compromise. Let's put it that way. That's everything else is a step below that. That's the ideal, is to get you to that. But it's been great. So again, I'll just, for those who came on maybe later. So on my contest for renaming the channel, because of the YouTube handle situation where they're asking you to give your channel a handle name, I obviously want to do the new name and not have to go through changing again. So the contest will end tomorrow evening. The naming contest will end tomorrow evening, and I will be announcing the channel name on Sunday, probably through a live first in the evening. I'll do a live with my subscribers first, and then I'll put out a video afterwards. But you'll be the first to know what it is. And so that was one thing. The other was to announce that Acoustic Sounds and Analog Productions announced the release of Jethro Tull's second album called Stand Up for 45 RPM 2 LP. This cool inner gatefold, inside the gatefold. You can watch the band pop out at you. That's been announced. They're going to do the same thing with Aqualung, which they released as a UHQR a few years ago. And so that's coming. I'm hoping to get an interview with Chad in the next week or so to catch up with him on a couple of topics, including that one. And again, Sunday will be the announcement of the new channel name. And also, I'll be doing the drawing for the 3 album submission for the $25 Amazon gift card. And if I choose one of the names, if it's a unique submission, then that person wins a $25 Amazon gift card. If it's a duplicate submission among several people, I will then have a drawing among those people for the gift card. So that's how that's going to work. So, yeah. Could have just had Bob Lowood, sax, Marlon. Yeah, right. Yeah, that would have been a lot of work having them all do that, right? But I will tell you, frankly, their stuff stands out, doesn't it? I mean, you do, sometimes you don't know how good something is until you have something to compare it to. So there was a lot of stuff being made just to get her done, so to speak. So anyway, I appreciate your time. I've been going about an hour 38, so I'm going to break away and enjoy the rest of my Friday evening, as I hope you all do, or Saturday mornings, depending where you are. Thanks as always for joining, and pretty soon you're going to be hearing me say, or I guess not say, Safe Sound of Safe and Sound Texas. So I'll be announcing my channel on Sunday, and I look forward to it. Again, you can throw a submission in if you haven't yet. I'm still open to ideas, narrowing down. But again, a great one will throw me over if I need it. But I had a lot of great submissions, and enjoyed the videos very much. So you all take care. Thank you very much for your time and for spending some time with me. Take care of yourselves and your families. God bless. See you. Bye-bye.